Hi, my name's Steven. I'm a triathlete and a fitness enthusiast, and I recently completed my first ever Ironman 70.3. I also lost over 85 pounds in just over a year, going from the mid 30% body fat range down to the sevens. And if I had to start all over again, this is exactly what I would do, broken down into 5 simple steps to lose weight and gain muscle mass. The first step is to establish a baseline, and that means getting a body scan if possible. But if not, at least weigh-ins, progress photos, and body measurements. The idea here is that you want to have a good understanding of your starting point so that you can keep accurate measurements of your progress along the way. So I mentioned a body scan. So actually, there's a lot of nutrition shops out there that will offer this to you for absolutely free. And a lot of those shops have something called an in-body scanner. Now, that may not be the most accurate on the market, but it actually gives you a good idea of where you're at and gives you lots of stats and does accurately measure your progress over time. So on that test, if you're able to find one and get access to one, you'll see lots of different things. I know it's confusing, but some of the things you want to pay attention to are BMR, or basal metabolic rate, visceral fat, and body fat percentage. Now, your BMR is how many calories your body burns at rest. And the visceral fat is the fat around your organs. And too much of this can lead to health risks. So you don't want that. And body fat percentage. Now, this is the number you should care about most when tracking your progress. So you also see weight and BMI. But honestly, those don't matter that much. BMI doesn't distinguish between fat and muscle, and the scale can fluctuate anywhere between 2 to 5 pounds in a single day or more, depending on water and sodium and lots more other factors. So that's why scanning consistently actually gives you the real picture. So step number 2 is set a goal. Now that you know your baseline, you can set a goal. Do you want to lose fat, build muscle, hit a certain body fat percentage? Notice how I didn't say lose weight. My own personal first goal was to lose body fat and to hit a certain body fat percentage. So once I did that though, I set new goals, but that's how progress works. You keep adjusting as you hit each milestone. And step 3 is training. Honestly, I'd start with 4 days in the gym per week and 2 to 3 days of cardio. That way you're hitting everything all at once without burning yourself out. One question I get all the time is, how much weight should you be lifting? Well, here's a simple framework. For big compound lifts like squats or bench press, you want to aim for 2 to 3 sets of around 8 to 10 reps. And you want to pick a weight where the last couple reps are challenging, but you're not breaking form. So for isolation exercises, you want to go a little higher. So still 2 to 3 sets, but you want to aim for 12 to 15 reps, still focusing on your form. And for cardio, I'd start with 20 to 30 minutes at a moderate pace. The goal here is to be able to hold a conversation, but not sing a full Taylor Swift song. Unless you want the whole gym to be staring at you, which, hey, totally your call. So step 4 is making a meal plan. Now it's time to fill your training with the right macros. Once you know your BMR and your activity level, you can set your calorie target. A good starting point I found is to consume 300 to 500 less calories per day than what you're actually burning. So that puts you in a sustainable deficit, not starving, and most importantly, not miserable. At that rate, you can expect to lose about a half a pound to a pound of body fat per week. Now, I know that may not sound like much, but trust me, slow progress is sustainable progress. And you may already know this, but crash diets just don't last. But we'll get into that more in just a bit. There are a number of good macro tracking apps out there, but I personally use Chronometer as it's the only free app that I know of that lets you scan food labels, which is a big game changer. So here's a basic example of someone who weighs 180 pounds. You would have about 180 grams of protein, 250 grams of carbs, and 60 grams of fat. So that comes out to around 2,200 calories per day. So that's your baseline, and you adjust each week based on your progress. And side note, you can still eat bread. This isn't 2004 where you have to be scared of carbs. I've also found that supplements can be a great way to easily hit your macro goals. And to keep it simple, I'd start out with protein powder to hit your protein target, and creatine, one of the most researched supplements out there for strength and recovery. Also, feel free to have a little fun while you're shaking up your drink. Okay, so step number 5, monitor your progress and make adjustments. I recommend getting a body scan every 3 weeks, always on the same day of the week and at the same time if you can. That way you're getting consistent data. And from there, you want to tweak your calories based on your progress. If you're losing fat too fast and you feel drained, eat a bit more. But if nothing's happening after a few weeks, cut slightly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I personally have had a lot of long conversations with the people who work at the nutrition shop that I go to. They're there to help you, and they're truly experts in what they do. So no questions too dumb. Okay, I know I said 5 tips, but for those of you who are still watching, 1, thank you very much. 2, don't forget to subscribe. And 3, I've got some bonus tips and some things for you to consider as well. So one of the things that beginners often overlook is listening to your body. This is really important. It's really easy to push too hard, especially when your mind says that you can do it, but your body just isn't ready. And that's how overuse injuries happen. Now, there's a difference between muscle soreness and injury pain. So let's chat about that a little bit. Muscle soreness feels dull or tight and typically improves as you warm up. But injury pain feels sharp and is kind of a stabbing feeling and gets worse as you keep moving. And if you push through injury pain, you risk sidelining yourself for weeks or even months. Taking it slow for a few days is always better than being forced to stop completely, trust me. And lastly, don't panic if the scale goes up on a random day. Weight fluctuates every single day, even hour to hour, from water or sodium or glycogen stores, or even just what you ate the night before. Plus, if you're training right, you're building muscle at the same time that you're losing fat. And that's why the scale doesn't tell the full story. You could literally be 5% body fat with 150 pounds of muscle, and a BMI calculator would still call you obese. So that's why BMI is kind of a joke in fitness. Now, there's a right way to be going about all of this, but I'll let you in on a secret. Only you can discover that for yourself. Make goals, yes, but then evaluate and adjust depending on how you're feeling. And make sure that you're doing this for yourself. Trust me, I can tell you, it will feel really good to hear people comment on how you look, but you need to find your why. When times get tough and your body is tired, that reason will always be the strongest motivator to keep going. And it's likely at some point you're going to slip. I know I sure did. But you can't always be perfect, and that's okay. You're working to better yourself and your health, and that's awesome. Progress is about the long term. And the only way that this works in the long term is if it's sustainable. Now, you've probably seen people go on extreme diets just to gain all the weight back after. I know that's happened to me, and hey, maybe that's happened to you too. But that's because living like that just isn't sustainable. So don't be afraid to make room in your macros for the foods and the things that you love and enjoy. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll get back to you. But you've got this. If you like this kind of content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. And I'll catch you in the next one.